Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing good. Welcome back to Module 6, Creative Expression for Mental Well-being. Now we are commencing lecture 5 of this module, which is Storytelling and Role-Playing for Personal Growth. Before we get started, I would like to introduce myself. I am Akanksha Avasthi. I am a mental health professional and RCA registered clinical psychologist. I have been working here at IIT Kanpur for past several years. So now I will discuss the agendas of today's discussion. First, I will introduce the basic points of this discussion. The second is exploring personal narratives through storytelling, role playing for self-exploration and empathy building. And the fourth point is group storytelling activities to foster connection and healing. So let's get started. First, I will discuss about the personal narratives. What is personal narrative? Personal narratives are those stories which we naturally construct about our life in daily living also to know the reason behind our actions, right? In public speaking or therapy, sharing personal stories influences persuasion, empathy and self-understanding. So like you have seen that multiple good speakers like Amitabh Bachchan and other celebrities, whenever they speak on public forum, they usually use personal narratives. So what happens? It eases them to tell their point of view and it also make the audience understand about the speaker's actions. So it actually is very important technique in public speaking in psychology. Storytelling. So since our childhood we are too much having strong impact and too much infatuation with stories. We used to learn our grandmother's stories, bedtime stories. We used to listen the tales of Mahabharata. So story is basically an integral part of our life. Today we will discuss in detail about the storytelling technique. Storytelling is the ancient art of conveying events and human experiences through a structured narrative, typically composed with a beginning, middle and end. It involves characters, a particular setting, conflicts and also resolution. Emotionally, stories activate particular regions in our brain and the release of particular neurotransmitters which impose and foster empathy and connectiveness. How storytelling helps explore personal narratives? By creating coherence and meaning. When we tell stories about our lives, we take different events, even messy or painful ones, and put them in order. And in that way, we also understand what was the reason behind those experiences. For example, when I failed in the exam, I didn't understand what was happening. But when I am looking back, now I can see it was for my own development and my own growth. It also fosters self-awareness. Reflecting on personal stories clarifies belief and emotional patterns. This may notify themes also. Okay, so in the past when I look back, I know that I always felt alone whenever I was in crisis. I am resilient. I noticed that despite any hardship, I am able to overcome it. The third point is it supports identity development, especially in adolescence. Storytelling helps a consistent sense of self and intentions. Your personal story helps answer questions like who I am, what do I believe in, what kind of life do I want to live. So when you see your story, it also gives you a sense of identity and also it tells you what kind of person you are in your life. It also offers opportunities for change. So in narrative therapy, this is a very strong and important concept that whenever you are telling a story, you can always reshape the story and tell it in a different manner so that rather not focusing only on the negative parts, you can also focus on the growth and reshape it to empower yourself. For example, instead of thinking I failed, I now tell myself I learned and came back stronger. So this is a chart telling how these techniques work. So one technique is chapter writing. So divide your life into chapters and write significant events and reflect. You can even name the chapters and give titles to them. This is McAdams method. The second technique is reflective and expressive writing, which we have already discussed. Pennebaker and Siegel has given this technique. You freely write about your traumas, about your life, and it also helps in catharsis. Narrative therapy. In these sessions, we externalize our problem and we reshape it into a sad story into an empowering one. It is given by White and Epstein. Journaling, daily or weekly writing to track developing themes and patterns. And the last one is storytelling aloud. Share with others to receive feedback and polish the narrative. It is usually helpful in group settings and given by Mac Adams. Now I will recommend two books which you can read to understand the whole phenomena in a better way. The first one is The Diary of a Young Girl by Annie Frank. It's a story of a young girl, Annie. When she was 13-year old, she was dealing with the Holocaust in her own manner and she used to write a diary. So when she died in 1946, his father published this diary. So when you read it, you see that by writing her diary in a story form, she told about her struggles as an adolescent. In the second book is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl. This is also published in 1946. So Mr. Frankl was a physician and he was also in the Nazi camp. And after coming from the concentration camp, he published this book and later on he developed logotherapy out of this book, and he told that if someone is having a particular goal or motive, it helps in dealing with their life difficulties and it also helps in their immunity system as well. So in both books you will see that even the small narratives or stories, they can be very important in conveying what the person was going through at that time, and it also helps in empathy building when someone else is reading this book. Now we are coming to the role playing. So role playing is basically used in multiple places, like in our social life, we go to watch Ram Leelas, we go to see theatres, even in the movies also, the actors are role playing particular characters. So in psychology also, role playing is basically used in 4 domains. The one is in psychodrama given by Morano, the second is in social skill training. When you learn about a particular skill, you role play in that particular role to master in that skill. Perspective taking and empathy building, to understand someone else's perspective and to develop empathy towards someone else. Sometimes we role play and it gives us immense clarity about that person's situation. The fourth one is in CBT. In cognitive behavioral therapy also, we use role playing in extensive manner. Role playing is a method where people act out a specific roles, their own or others, to explore emotions, behaviors and perspectives. It is developed in 1920s by Jacob L. Morano, an Austrian psychiatrist who founded psychodrama. So basically role playing is having too much impact on the person who is doing it, who is living in that character, and also to the audience, because they can also build a connection with that particular character. So you have seen the people, whenever they are watching any emotional movie, they start crying. They also felt emotions which the hero or the actor is actually living. So what is this? This is the feeling of connection and empathy building. Basically role playing is important in 2 things. The first is self exploration and the second thing is empathy building. Now we will discuss these 2 points in elaborated manner. Role playing for self exploration, to uncover unspoken thoughts, emotions and conflicts. Second, to gain insight into one's own behavior, values or identity. And third one, to confront any inner dilemma or shadow parts of the self. Role playing is helpful. Basically, for the self exploration, 3 techniques are quite useful. The first is soliloquy technique, the second is empty chair technique, and the third is future self role play. So soliloquy technique is basically extensively used by Shakespeare in his novels. Macbeth's speech is a perfect example of soliloquy technique. So soliloquy is coming from Latin, it's a Latin word, becomes from solus and loci. Solus means alone and loci means to speak alone. In this particular technique of role play, the character speaks alone about his internal conflicts, fears, whatever is going on in his mind, and it is very helpful to understand audience what is going on inside the character's mind. The second is empty chair technique, which is taken from Gestalt therapy, and the third one is future self role play. I will discuss all these with particular examples in the later on slides. So now going to the next thing, role playing for empathy building. To understand how and what other person is thinking in that particular situation, role play is very good criteria to do this thing. The second is to reduce judgment, bias or conflict. When you role play about someone, you understand why the person is doing it. It is actor observer bias. When you are becoming the actor, when you are doing that particular role, you understand the dynamics of how and why the person is doing it. The third is to promote open and considerate communication. Sometimes when you role play other person's role, you understand why the person is saying this thing, why the person is doing this thing in that particular manner. So it also increases the open communication. Three techniques are quite useful in this empathy building, and these are role reversal technique, empathetic enactment, and the third is perspective taking dialogues. Now I will give you few examples so that you can understand these techniques in a better way. The first example is of soliloquy technique. I am giving you the scenario, I am reading it and you just listen to it and keep understanding it. A 19-year-old college student, overwhelmed with career pressure, sits alone in therapy and speaks his internal dialogue. Everyone expects me to be an engineer, but I don't even like it. I feel like a fraud every time I attend class. Outcome: by doing this internal dialogue, openly speaking when no one is listening to him, that student understand that he is not feeling disappointment, but he is in fear of disappointing others, and that is what which is stopping him for changing the paths. The second scenario is a 26-year-old student participates in a wellness shop. She is asked to speak her inner thoughts aloud. Then she told, "Why can't I stick to exercise?" Encouraged to go deeper, she admits, "I am embarrassed about my body. I am afraid people will judge me." Outcome: she shifts from self-criticism to self-awareness, realizing her avoidance stems from shame and not from laziness. Now we'll discuss about the second technique, that is empty chair technique. In scenario 1, you see a college girl role plays a conversation with her mother, which is represented by an empty chair. She has to assume that her mother is sitting on that empty chair and she is talking to her. To confronting the pressure to stay close to home, she is telling, "You say it's for my safety, but I feel suffocated. I want to explore life on my own terms." Then when she switches chair and responds as her mother, she said, "I worry because the word can be harsh. I just want you to be safe. That's why I want you to come back home on time and be near the home." By doing this technique, she understands and gains insight how and why her mother is telling her to do this thing, and then she understands her need of independence and her mother's protective intentions as well. Now the second scenario is a college student frequently binge eats after stressful exams. She uses an empty chair to speak to her craving self. "You always show up when I am overwhelmed. I don't even enjoy the food." Then switching chairs, she responds as the craving self. "I am trying to help you calm down. You never let yourself cry or rest, so I step in." Then she realizes that her binge eating is basically emotional. It is not she is doing because of hunger, but it is because her exploration, because of her emotional conflicts, she binge eats. And then she switches to healthier coping methods. Now we are coming to the next technique, which is future self role play. I am giving you a scenario. A 20-year-old college student struggles with his sexual identity and feels ashamed of his lower caste background. In therapy, he is asked to speak as his future self 10 years from now. "You stopped hiding," his 10 years future self told to him. "You stopped hiding. You found people who love you for who you are. Your caste and your identity never made you less. You are finally proud of the journey." By doing this exercise, he experienced hope, validation and self-acceptance, and getting that his future can be defined by courage and not by shame. Second scenario is a 19-year-old college student spends hours daily on Instagram obsessing over fashion, luxury influencers and online shopping. She often feels insecure and guilty afterward. In a future self role play, she is imagined herself 10 years ahead, a version of herself who has healed and grown. Her future self telling her, You no longer need likes and luxury to feel good. You have found peace in your own skin. Outcome: she sees hope for change and understands her behavior comes from insecurity, not just bad habits. Role reversal technique. Scenario is a 20 years old girl constantly jokes about being single, and when she role play with a confident friend, she tells, I talk to boys because I believe I'm worth knowing. Then she switches to her real self. I feel invisible, like I'm not enough. Outcome: she confronts the gap between self perception and her ideal self image, opening the door to self love. Scenario 2 is a college student thinks her teacher is too harsh, but in a guided role reversal, she plays the teacher. I push you because I know you are capable, but when you don't submit work, I feel like you are giving up. Then the teacher plays her role. I am anxious all the time. Your feedback feels more pressure than support. Both understand each other better, leading to a better and supportive learning environment. Now coming to the next technique, which is empathetic enactment. Scenario 1, a teenager feels her roommate is emotionally distant. She is asked to act out her roommate's inner world. So she is speaking like this: I have moved 3 times this year. I don't trust people easily anymore. I am scared of getting attached. Outcome: she begins to view her roommate's silence as self-protection and not because of rudeness. The second scenario is a creative student wants to pursue fine arts, but his father insists on math and engineering, fearing an unstable future. In role play of empathetic enactment, he steps into his father's emotional world and says, I struggled so much, I just want you to have a stable future, even if you are angry now. Outcome: the boy gets empathy for his father's fear and sees that the pressure comes from care and not because of control. Now, the next technique is perspective taking dialogue. Scenario 1 is a couple argues about independence. In a guided dialogue, they switch roles. She as him, my life is so full right now. College, work, home responsibilities. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just overloaded. He as her, I know you are busy, but when you are distant, I feel unloved and unimportant. Outcome: they gain insight into each other's needs and fears, improving communication, social closeness, and relationship. Scenario 2 is a scholarship student from humble family at a high-tech elite school switches role with a richer peer. He as wealthy peer, I didn't know what it's like to skip meals for fees. I just assumed everyone had the same life. Wealthier peer as him, I feel like I don't belong here, like I have to prove myself twice as hard. Outcome: both parties experience mutual understanding, bridging the class-based empathy and dissolving silent biasness. Now we'll come to the group storytelling. So when we do the group storytelling in a scenario when there are audience, when there are a lot of peoples, and when they each share their stories, it's not about that one person is telling the story, it's can every member of the group, they share their stories with each other so that they feel more connected and they feel empathetic towards everyone, and they also understand the particular why and how about that story. Group telling is basically a shared therapeutic or development activity where individuals co-create or share personal and imaginary narratives together in a group settings. So basically it is used in therapeutic settings. Why it is powerful? So when someone is doing the storytelling and he is doing it in front of others, he feels that his insecurities are coming out. It also helps in emotional ventilation, because when you are having your stories unheard, you feel like no one is doing it. But when you are telling it, it also ventilates your suppressed emotions. It also helps to externalize problem so that you can reshape the stories and then you can feel empowered. Group storytelling activities to foster connection and healing. Here I will tell you different kind of stories and different kind of techniques which you can use. So I am giving you examples as well. The first one is pass the story circle. One person starts a story with a line, there was a girl who carried a heavy bag, and the next person adds a sentence and the third person adds another sentence. So in that way they create a story by adding one line after one line. What happens? This way they feel that they all are sharing the ownership of the story. So they are doing it in a shared manner. Healing aspect is, like in this particular example, heavy bag. It can be portraying of a emotional baggage the girl is carrying. So in that way, we also portray the emotions safely and we feel that we are getting heard and we feel connected with others. In a trauma support group, the story evolves into a tale about a bird trapped in a cage who finally flies free, symbolizing liberation from fear. Hero's journey, story mapping. The group creates a shared story using the hero's journey model, and then they start with the adventure, what struggles that hero faced, what transformation this happened, and how the hero came back home. Each member contribute to different chapters in that particular technique. Healing aspect, especially helpful for adolescents, survivors, or recovering individuals, because by doing this they make stories about person whom it started with a struggle, there were lots of adversity, but at the end the hero emerged as a warrior. Third one is story stones or story cards. This activity is in which the participants draw random image stones or prompt cards. They use these to tell a personal or fictional story. For example, a participant draws a storm and then telling that this is depicting the story of his broken marriage and what and how the two parties are suffering. The fourth is story rewriting, that is narrative reauthoring. The group picks a real life negative experience, their own or the fictional one, and collaboratively write the ending, emphasizing growth. Here what happens, it helps individual to reframe that trauma because they take a negative incident and they intentionally write it in a positive manner. A participant shares how they were bullied in school. The group rewrites the ending where the character stands up, seek help and finds their voice, creating emotional empowerment for that particular person and for themselves in general. The fifth technique is 6 words story sharing, in which each participant has to write their personal story in only 6 words. For example, hid the scars behind loud laughter. Its example I have given: dreamed big, hid caste, still small. Opening on the discussion, he told that he had very big dreams when he went to college. In that order, he hid his caste to everyone, but later on he felt that inside he also felt inferior. So in that way, by using these 6 words, he explained how he felt during his college time and how he emerged and what techniques he used to deal with that inferiority and those things in the discussion part. So my final words are that storytelling is not just about telling stories. It's a very powerful way in which you tell about your life and people listen, they also understand. When you share stories with your friends, with your peers, with your family, you also make a social connectedness, and it also help in stress, in emotional regulation, in catharsis, and they have very beneficial effects on your mind and also in your emotional and mental health. So storytelling is not just telling the tales, but it is also having very strong impact on ourselves internally and physically. So different forms of storytelling help in different ways, whether alone, with a therapist or in group. It's a simple but profound way to understand life and feel better. So basically everyone here having a story and every story matters. So these are the resources which you can go through to understand these things in a better way. Thank you everyone.